Jesus.
Holy crap! This is crazy! Hello? Where are you?
The wilderness hides chilling secrets where a peaceful escape can instantly become a nightmare. Whether it's the forest floor literally breathing beneath your feet, or a pale figure dragging someone into the dark, if the unexplained found you, would you run or freeze? This terrifying moment took place during an afternoon hike when a woman was walking alone through the forest. Everything seemed ordinary until she suddenly heard heavy movement approaching along the trail. Her survival instincts activated instantly, and she quietly slipped behind a cluster of bushes, barely breathing. What she saw next nearly stopped her heart. 3 enormous bears stepped into view, playing and moving directly along the same path she had just been walking. They were massive, close, and completely unaware that she was only a few steps away. Moments like this show how fast a calm hike can turn dangerous. If you were only feet away from 3 bears, would you stay perfectly still or let panic make the choice for you? In the spring of 2006, campers at Big South Fork in Tennessee were taken by surprise when a violent storm suddenly moved in.
Oh, damn it. It's happening! It's happening! Holy crap! This is crazy!
A tornado touched down nearby, but fortunately it narrowly avoided the campsite. Enormous hailstones began pounding down, striking tents and hammering the ground. One tent pole broke under the impact, though the primary tent somehow remained upright. Even more surprising, the campfire never extinguished during the storm. When the system finally passed, the campsite was blanketed in massive chunks of ice. Being struck by one of those could have resulted in serious injury. If you were in a tent when hail that size started crashing down, would you stay put and hope it passes, or try to run for cover? This disturbing clip was filmed by a group camping across a river late at night as morning light began to approach. They were standing near the water, recording the still, quiet surroundings. One person had brought a laser pointer and casually aimed it upward into the sky. That was when they spotted a bright object suspended above, strangely motionless and glowing against the early dawn. Out of curiosity, the laser beam was directed straight at the object. Almost immediately it responded. The object erupted in an intense flash, releasing a blinding burst of light that overwhelmed the frame. The reaction seemed instant and hostile, nothing like a simple reflection or normal aircraft behavior, more like a sudden warning. In the confusion, the camera fell from the person's hands and struck the ground. After that, the footage shows only darkness, accompanied by panicked voices shouting in fear. If a light in the sky could react that sharply to a small laser, was it just a strange coincidence, or did they trigger something they didn't understand? Several boys entered the forest to camp during their summer break, expecting a peaceful night away from everything. But once darkness settled in, the woods felt different. Uneasy but curious, they slowly lifted the tent flap to look outside. That was when they saw it. Something, or someone, stood just beyond the tree line. 2 glowing eyes stared directly at them, faintly reflecting the light.
Ya Allah!
Its face appeared pale and elongated, with light-colored hair hanging motionless around it. The figure did not move like a normal person or animal. There was something unnatural about its presence, something that felt beyond explanation. Then, just as quickly as it appeared, it disappeared into the darkness without a sound and without leaving any trace. The boys remained frozen. realizing that whatever it was had been watching them. If it could show itself and vanish like that, how long had it been standing there before they ever looked outside? A woman was camping alone in the woods with her dog when she abruptly woke to something deeply unsettling. It sounded as though a large number of wild animals had gathered around their campsite. Both she and her dog remained completely still, listening carefully to every movement and sound outside. They stayed frozen in silence until it eventually felt safe enough to leave. If you woke up surrounded by unseen movement in the dark, would you stay perfectly still like she did, or try to make a run for it? He was riding his bike deep in the bush, expecting nothing more than a quiet trail and the sound of his engine echoing through the trees. Then he spotted it, a dark cave concealed among the woods. Curiosity drew him closer. Maybe someone needed assistance. Maybe it was nothing at all. But the moment he came to a stop, everything shifted.
Is that my fork? What? Hello? No. It's like a trail just leading me. That was a bone I just broke. Why is that? Help. Hello? What the hell?
From somewhere inside the cave, a voice suddenly called out, asking for help. It sounded human, almost too human. His heart began pounding as fear crept up his spine. The voice continued, growing louder and seeming closer, as if whatever was inside was moving toward him. Panic set in. He quickly jumped back on his bike and took off. Branches snapped behind him as he sped away, convinced something was pursuing him. If you heard a voice like that in a remote cave, would you go back to check, or keep riding and never look behind you? During a powerful windstorm in October 2023, someone captured a disturbing scene deep inside a forest. As intense gusts tore through the trees, something even more unusual began happening beneath them. The ground itself started to move, slowly rising and sinking, almost as if it were breathing. Moments later, the forest floor seemed to split and stretch, shifting like it was about to pull everything above it downward. It did not look like a normal sinkhole, and it did not suddenly cave in. Instead, the entire section of earth rolled in one smooth, unsettling motion, creating the impression that it was somehow alive. Viewers who watched the footage were shocked, saying they had never seen anything like it. If you saw the ground beneath your feet start to shift like that, would you stay to record it or run before it moved again? This footage shows a cave explorer recording what was meant to be a routine descent. At first, nothing seems unusual, just narrow tunnels, damp air, and the familiar discomfort that comes with squeezing through tight passageways. But then the camera focuses on something odd. Along the cave floor and walls lies a thick red mud. It does not appear to be blood, at least that is what the person filming tries to convince themselves. Yet it is unsettling enough to raise concern.
Fucking weird noises.
There is no clear proof that anything has been living down there. No footprints, no remains, no obvious signs of recent presence. Still, the deeper the explorer moves, the heavier the atmosphere becomes. The silence feels oppressive, broken only by breathing and the scrape of movement against stone. Maybe the red mud and the silence have simple explanations, but why did it feel so strongly like something knew they were there? A group of adventure seekers entered the thick pine barrens of New Jersey, intent on finding traces of the legendary Jersey Devil. Flashlights sliced through the dense darkness as they moved carefully forward, shadows shifting with every step. The air felt heavy, almost as if the forest itself was holding still. Before long, they came across a small stone structure, partially open on one side. Torches burned both inside and outside, their flames casting flickering light across the walls. Inside, the scene was deeply unsettling. Objects had been placed with clear intention, and among them rested a human skull, staring blankly into the dim glow. The space carried an undeniable sense of ritual, something deliberate and ominous, as though dark ceremonies had taken place there. Fear tightened around the group as they realized the forest did not feel empty. Something unseen seemed to be watching, the weight of local legends pressing in around them. Slowly, hearts racing, they retreated. If rituals like that were intended to summon or honor the Jersey Devil, would you feel safe standing there after dark? Jade was hiking across a wide, empty stretch of desert when something unusual caught her attention. Sitting alone in the sand was a large, sun-bleached cooler, abandoned and completely out of place. In the middle of nowhere, it immediately felt suspicious.
Suspicious? Cooler? Literally in the middle of nowhere.
Curiosity took over, and she decided to open it. What she discovered made her stop cold.
Dude, that might be a dead body.
Inside the cooler were bones. In remote desert environments, finds like that can sometimes signal serious and troubling circumstances. Not wanting to take any risks, Jade called the non-emergency police line. A deputy arrived shortly after and inspected the contents. Following a brief examination, he determined the remains appeared to be animal, not human, and no further action was taken. The story continued when the footage later spread online. A forensic anthropologist reviewed it and reached the same conclusion. The bone was not human. Still, the question of how and why the cooler ended up in such an isolated location was never answered. Maybe it was simply discarded waste left behind, or maybe there is more to how it got there. If you found something like that alone in the desert, would you open it or walk away and never look back? A group of travelers was making their way across a vast desert when they recorded this unsettling footage. In the distance, a towering sandstorm was charging toward them, swallowing the horizon as it advanced. Sandstorms are extremely dangerous. They can wipe out visibility in seconds, make navigation almost impossible, and send debris flying with enough force to injure people or damage vehicles. Did they manage to get away in time? Did they remain inside the vehicle and wait for it to pass? What followed remains unknown. If you saw a wall of sand racing toward you across open desert, would you try to outrun it or stay put and hope your vehicle could withstand the impact? This terrifying incident happened to a group of men hiking deep in the forest. They were worn out and drained, and when they finally reached a waterfall, they felt relieved. That was when everything shifted. One of them noticed movement near the rocks beside the waterfall. He immediately alerted the others. When they all turned to look, the figure slowly began emerging from beneath the rock, moving toward them. Fear struck instantly. Without waiting to discover what it truly was, they scrambled out of the water and ran. If you were standing in that water and saw something like that move toward you, would curiosity make you stay? Or would instinct push you to run too? Two friends were hiking along a narrow, wind-swept mountain ridge, the kind of trail where a single wrong step could lead to serious consequences. Then, in an instant, everything shifted.
Jesus, Alan. I'm filming. Don't die on camera. Although that would blow up on Instagram, you know?
One hiker lost his footing. His pulse spiked as he wobbled dangerously close to the edge, the steep drop only inches away. Time seemed to slow, each second stretching as he fought to regain control. With a sudden, desperate adjustment of his weight, he managed to steady himself at the last possible moment. One small mistake could have transformed a beautiful hike into a tragedy. If you were standing on that ridge and felt your balance slip, would you trust your footing or turn back before pushing any farther? This disturbing moment happened to a hiker who had been enjoying his trip until night settled in. He was still making his way down the trail alone in the darkness when he heard an unsettling sound echoing from somewhere in the distance. At first, he brushed it off and continued walking, assuming it was nothing unusual. Then he noticed her. Standing farther up the path was a figure dressed entirely in white. Her eyes appeared completely pale, and long black hair draped over her face. The instant he understood what he was seeing, a wave of fear surged through him. The figure, whatever it was, began moving toward him slowly, one step at a time, without making a single sound. If you were standing there in the dark and saw that figure approaching, would you freeze and wait or turn and run without looking back? Late one night, a farmer in rural Michigan received a motion notification from a trail camera positioned deep within the woods on his property, miles away from roads, houses, airports, or any recognized light source. Expecting to see nothing more than deer wandering through, he started reviewing the recording. Instead, what appeared made his stomach sink. In the pitch-black darkness, a sudden, powerful beam of light dropped down from above, briefly lighting up the surrounding trees. There were no vehicles, no people, and no clear explanation. The light showed up without warning and disappeared just as fast. Even years later, the footage still lingers in his mind. If you checked your camera and saw that, would you go looking for answers or leave the woods alone? Late at night, a group of friends was walking through a quiet city park when they came across something that looked like it belonged in a nightmare.
There's a fucking seance going on at this park, dude. Yo, these are like lit too. What the f?
Oh, hell no. I want to go home. I forgot my pole.
There's like actual like meat.
No, this shit kind of creepy.
Spread across the ground were handwritten signs, surrounded by flickering candles and pieces of raw chicken. The arrangement appeared deliberate and recent, as if whoever had placed everything there had only just slipped away into the darkness. The candles were still burning, casting unsteady light over the strange display. Some of the writing on the signs seemed to form a name, adding to the uneasy feeling that this was more than random litter. Unsure who had been there or what the purpose was, they chose not to stay and quickly left, putting distance between themselves and the setup. If you had walked into that park and seen those candles still burning, would you have looked closer or walked away without turning back? This frightening moment occurred while a woman was hiking alone along a forest trail. As she continued walking, she noticed a dark shape shifting in the bushes ahead of her. Her heart sank immediately. Not knowing what it was, she froze and waited, staying as quiet as possible so she could see more clearly. After several tense seconds, the figure stepped out from the brush and crossed the path. That's when she understood what she was facing. A moose, enormous, silent, and far too close for comfort. When it finally disappeared, she moved again. Moments like this show how fast calm can turn into danger. If you were alone on that trail, would you keep going or turn back after a reminder of who really controls the forest? A Reddit user shared a story that still leaves people unsettled. He set out alone on a hike into a remote desert mountain. When he reached the summit, the marked trail disappeared. What remained was a narrow, slanted rock ridge with steep drops on both sides. Standing there, your thoughts would race. Your heartbeat would pound louder than the wind. Your legs would tremble as loose rock shifted under your boots. Yet somehow, he kept moving forward. Step by step, breath by breath, he managed to make it back safely. If you were faced with a ridge where one mistake could be your last, would you keep going or turn around before it was too late? A TikTok user was hiking along a quiet forest trail with her husband when the atmosphere suddenly felt off. Her husband stepped away briefly, then calmly, but urgently called her name. Within seconds, the forest seemed to change. From the trees ahead, a coyote quietly stepped onto the path. The animal never noticed her, and slipped back into the trees, disappearing as silently as it had arrived. Only afterward did she fully understand why her husband had called out to her. The wild gives no warning, and awareness can mean everything. If you heard your name called like that, would you freeze or look up in time to see what was there? 5 miles deep in the forest, far beyond any marked trail, he discovered something that immediately unsettled him. Standing alone was a tree covered in bones. Animal skulls had been carved with unfamiliar symbols. Bones were tied together, and one had been painted red, as if it had been part of some kind of ritual. Shaken but curious, he took a photo before leaving the area. When he returned the next day, everything was gone. It was as if the entire scene had never been there. Who put it there? Was it part of a ritual? A warning meant to be seen only once? Or something darker that was never meant to be found again? If you had come across that tree deep in the woods, would you have stayed to look closer, or walked away immediately? During what seemed like a calm, ordinary hike, someone stopped to snap a quick photo with their dog, expecting nothing more than a simple keepsake. Later, when they looked back at the image, they noticed something deeply unsettling. In the background, barely visible, was a dark, shadow-like figure with what appeared to be glowing eyes. Even more disturbing was the dog's reaction. The retriever stood completely at ease, showing no sign of fear. Many people argue that would be impossible if something threatening had truly been nearby. Years later, the picture remains unexplained, leaving people to wonder what was really there that day. If you found something like that hidden in your own picture, would you dismiss it or start questioning what might have been watching you? This disturbing clip was posted on Horror Chill's TikTok, filmed deep in the forest late at night. A small group is recording in almost complete darkness. One person stands a few steps ahead of the others, quietly speaking towards something hidden among the trees, while the rest remain behind with cameras raised. Their flashlights shine directly on his body, leaving everything beyond him swallowed in black. The tension in the air is thick, as if the woods themselves are observing.
I don't know. I've been face down in a ditch for 2 hours. I don't think there's much left I have to prove. Okay, well, if you can come back, I don't know where this thing is or when it's gonna.
Without warning, a pale white figure rushes out of the darkness and grabs him. Within seconds, he is violently pulled into the deeper forest, disappearing between the trees. His friends immediately scream and chase after him, desperate to help. There are no answers about what happened next, and no clear explanation for what appeared from the dark. If you were standing there after midnight and saw someone pulled into the trees like that, would you run after them or stay back and call for help? A disturbing video making the rounds on TikTok shows a solitary hiker traveling deep into the Mojave Desert, miles from the closest town or paved road. The terrain stretches endlessly in every direction, dry and desolate, wrapped in an unsettling silence. There are no footprints pressed into the sand, no traces of wildlife, no evidence that anyone else has passed through in a long time. That quiet is suddenly shattered. Without warning, a sharp, piercing scream cuts across the empty landscape. Startled and unsure, the hiker stops cold, scanning the horizon in every direction. Nothing appears. Nothing that could account for the sound. The scream feels wrong, almost unnatural, as if it doesn't belong in such a remote and lifeless place. The camera jolts violently as panic takes control, capturing only the vast desert stretching behind him, while the echo fades into the distance. If you were standing there and heard that scream with nothing around you, would you stay and search for the source, or run without looking back? This terrifying experience was posted by a Reddit user who believed he was simply taking another quiet solo hike through the forest. The trail felt peaceful and uneventful until he spotted it. A massive grizzly bear was walking directly toward him, completely alone on the path. With trembling hands, he pulled out a can of pepper spray and aimed it toward the bear's face. The spray hit its target. The bear instantly turned away and ran in the opposite direction, leaving him physically unharmed. In moments like that, survival can depend on one small piece of gear and one fast decision. Sometimes preparation makes all the difference, but sometimes it's just timing. If you were standing there without that spray, would you have kept your composure or frozen at the worst possible second? This unsettling encounter happened to a man who went out for a hike and found himself still walking through the forest after dark, relying only on his flashlight to guide him. Then the beam of light caught something ahead on the trail. In the distance, several figures appeared to be gathered together, standing close as if in some kind of meeting. Confused and curious, he moved forward slowly, trying to get a clearer look. That was when he heard it. Low laughter, strange and deeply unsettling. The figures resembled witches, standing together in the darkness. Without hesitating, he turned and ran as fast as he could, refusing to glance back. If you were walking alone at night and saw figures like that ahead, would curiosity keep you there a second longer, or would you run too? During what was meant to be a normal camping trip in western Massachusetts, a camper noticed something strange in the woods. Among scattered and broken branches, he spotted a tall, dark shape standing motionless. It appeared to be over 7 feet tall and blended almost perfectly with the surrounding trees. Afterward, he was left questioning what he had actually seen. Was it a glimpse of something like Bigfoot, or simply a trick of the mind? If you had seen that figure standing there, would you have stepped closer for a better look, or turned around immediately? A Reddit user headed out for a mountain hike, but the conditions were far from welcoming. The trail ahead was completely buried under snow, thick fog lingering in the air, and reducing visibility to almost nothing. The surroundings were unnervingly silent, interrupted only by the crunch of snow beneath his boots and the wind bouncing off the rocky slopes. Every direction looked identical, and the route forward was impossible to distinguish. In an environment like that, uncertainty starts to settle in fast. Do you keep moving, relying on instinct and determination, or turn back before the situation becomes dangerous? A user shared a disturbing memory from his very first hiking trip, an experience that could make anyone think twice about venturing deep into the wilderness. While walking through a dense forest, he suddenly realized he was only a few feet away from an enormous black bear. He remained absolutely still, hoping the bear would not perceive him as a threat. Fortunately, this one chose to turn and walk away, leaving him shaken but physically unharmed. When you're standing face to face with a wild animal miles from help, instinct becomes everything. If you found yourself in that exact moment, would you stand frozen and trust the bear to leave, or take the risk of running? Filmed in a wooded area near a small town, this footage was captured overnight by a camper's CCTV camera. At first, nothing appears unusual. The lens points toward a distant elevated section of land, and behind it a steady light glows, possibly from a road, a building, or something never clearly identified. What makes the video unsettling is how motionless everything seems. Then, without warning, a shadow enters the frame. It moves between the gaps in the grass, crossing the scene at a distance. The shape does not resemble a person, and it doesn't move like any recognizable animal either. It appears tall, elongated, and indistinct, its outline impossible to clearly define. Later, the camper stated that no one else was in the area that night. If nothing was meant to be there, and the forest itself stayed unchanged, what exactly crossed that camera's view? A TikTok user named Jesse was walking alone through the woods late at night when something deeply unsettling occurred. As he recorded, strange noises began echoing around him.
Got something coming down, man. I got something screaming down there. I don't know what this is, man. Something fucking screaming down there, man. Hello? Where are you? Show yourself right now! Something big moving in there, man. Something real big, guys.
Sharp, distant screams that did not sound human. He continued filming, insisting something large was moving somewhere in the darkness. Then he suddenly stopped. Between the trees ahead, 2 glowing red eyes stared directly at him. Terrified, he slowly backed away, only to notice another shape farther into the forest. Its eyes also reflected the light before it disappeared into the darkness.
What the fuck? Oh, shit, man.
Jesse managed to leave the woods that night. If you were alone out there and saw those eyes staring back, would you keep recording or get out as fast as possible? In the winter of 2017, a Reddit user uploaded what appeared to be a normal photograph of his younger sister taken during a quiet winter camping trip. At the time, they were completely alone in the outdoors, with no one else nearby. Later, when they looked at the image more carefully, something unsettling stood out. Two faint, human-like shapes appeared to be positioned in front of his sister. One of the figures looked strangely identical to her. The real mystery, however, was the second figure standing off to the right. It did not resemble anyone they recognized, and according to them, no one else had been present when the photo was taken. Even now, the user admits he has no clear explanation for that additional figure in the frame. In western Massachusetts, a woman named Mandy began noticing something deeply unsettling taking place in her backyard after dark. The footage is disturbing. The woman can be seen making unusual sounds, hiding in corners, walking up to the front door, and whispering into the darkness. Eventually, it was revealed that the neighbor suffers from a severe sleepwalking disorder. Despite learning this, Mandy remained shaken. She urged her neighbor to take precautions, secure the home, contact authorities, or seek medical assistance. However, nothing changed, leaving Mandy living in constant anxiety about what might happen next. If you were in Mandy's position, would you rely on understanding the condition or take stronger steps to protect yourself? A husband and wife were driving late at night along a quiet, isolated road. There were no streetlights and no other vehicles, just darkness stretching endlessly ahead. Everything seemed normal until, without warning, something appeared directly in front of their car. Later, when they reviewed the dash camera footage, what they found was even more unsettling. The shape standing on the road looked almost human, but not entirely. The way it moved, the way it stood, and the speed at which it appeared and disappeared didn't match normal behavior. There was no evidence of anyone else in the area. As they searched for explanations, they discovered something disturbing. Locals claimed similar encounters had occurred on that same stretch of road before. Multiple drivers had reported human-like figures appearing suddenly at night, only to vanish seconds later without a trace. If it looked human but wasn't, what exactly have drivers been seeing on that road after midnight? This unsettling incident took place one afternoon deep in the forest as daylight began to fade. A hiker noticed a massive, tall tree and decided to construct a small treehouse in it to rest for the night. At the time, it seemed like a smart and secure plan. But once darkness fully set in, the atmosphere changed. Later that night, he was suddenly awakened by a disturbing crying sound echoing through the woods.
Kaya! Kaya!
His heart pounded as he grabbed his flashlight and tried to pinpoint where the noise was coming from. That's when he spotted something at the base of the tree. A strange figure stood there making the sound. He couldn't clearly describe its appearance, but the moment his light hit it, everything shifted. The crying stopped. In its place came laughter. Frozen in place, he had no idea what to do next. If you were up in that tree, would you climb down into the darkness to face it, or stay there until sunrise, hoping it would leave? Recognized throughout many Islamic regions, Abu Fanis is a phenomenon long spoken about by desert travelers. For generations, stories have described a solitary light glowing in the distance, flickering and hovering in a way that almost feels inviting. In the Arabian Peninsula, many believe this light is not natural at all, but a jinn whose purpose is deception. The glow lures travelers away from their path.
هذا الربع ابو فانوس، هذا ابو فانوس، شفتوا اللي الشير هذا ابو فانوس واضح، ابو فانوس. شوفوا الحين يبدا يختفي، شوفوا بدا يكبس، شوفوا يختفي، شفتوا؟ شوفوا هذا موقع ابو فانوس حال غير المواقع الاستراحات.
Guiding them deeper into the desert toward hidden pits, dangerous terrain, or endless wandering that can end in starvation. Those unfamiliar with the legend are said to make a deadly mistake. Lost, exhausted, and desperate for direction, they follow the light, believing it will lead them to safety. Owen filmed a brief clip inside her hospital room. At first, everything appeared completely ordinary, but when she slowly turned the camera toward one corner, she noticed something deeply disturbing.
Apa tuh Bapak Jirin? Itu nah di pintu.
Standing there seemed to be a pale, humanoid-shaped figure, completely motionless. A short time later, her friend went over to check the same corner. When Owen recorded that area again, the figure had vanished. After the footage spread online, some viewers compared the shape to a pocong, a figure from Indonesian and Malaysian folklore described as a human body tightly wrapped in a burial shroud. If you had seen something like that in your hospital room, would you assume it was just your mind playing tricks, or would you start to believe something else was there? That's all for tonight's video. Which encounter gave you chills? Let us know in the comments below. Got your own experience? We want to hear it. And whatever you do, don't miss what's coming next.